All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions out there. What's the real cost of running an EV? We got our hands on a fascinating 6-month real-world case study, and I gotta tell you, the results might just completely change how you see the road ahead. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and start with the most incredible number from this whole analysis. A 97.35% saving compared to a regular gas-powered car. And no, I'm serious, that is not a typo. Over 6 months, this EV driver pretty much eliminated their fuel costs. So you're probably thinking what I was thinking. How? How on earth is a saving that massive even possible? And is it actually realistic for a normal person? Well, that's exactly what we're here to find out. Let's follow the data and see how they pulled it off. Okay, so first things first, to really get this, we need to understand the test itself. And let me be clear, this wasn't some perfect lab simulation. Nope, this was a real person in a real car driving on real roads. So the car we're looking at here is an XPENG G6 Long Range. And this whole deep dive is possible because the driver was meticulous. They tracked everything, from every kilometer traveled to every single kilowatt hour they put into the battery. All right, so let's just get the basic facts straight. We're looking at one specific car, the XPENG G6. The test ran for 171 days, which is just shy of 6 months. And in that time, it drove a pretty decent distance, over 6,500 kilometers. Now, before we even touch the money side of things, we gotta talk about performance. Because let's be real, if the car itself is a dud, then the savings don't really mean much, do that? So how did it actually hold up out there? So first up, let's talk range. In day-to-day driving, this car hit 89% of its official advertised range. And look, if you know anything about EVs, you know that getting almost 90% of that lab-tested number in the real world, well, that's a really, really strong result. And here's the efficiency number that made that happen. 5.8 kilometers for every kilowatt hour of energy. You can basically think of this like miles per gallon or liters per 100 kilometers for a gas car. It's just a measure of how well it uses its juice. And yeah, this is a pretty solid figure. Okay, but get this, the battery health. After nearly 7,000 kilometers and all those charging cycles, its state of health was still a perfect 100%. This is huge because it hits on one of the biggest worries people have about going electric, battery degradation. All right, so the car is a solid performer. It's efficient, range is good, the battery's holding up, awesome. But that still doesn't explain that wild 97% saving, right? So let's get to the main event. What did all this driving actually cost? Okay, this is where we get to the secret sauce. Because the key to that 97% number isn't just what was being driven, but how it was being charged. All right, let's look at the numbers. Over 171 days, the car took on more than 1,100 kilowatt hours of electricity. So the total cost to drive over 6,600 kilometers was, get this, $44.44 for the whole 6 months. That's it. So how? How was that number so incredibly low? Well, the answer is right here, plain as day, in the detailed charging log. Just look at that total cost column on the far right. See that? Over and over and over again, it says zero. $0.00. And there it is. That's the key to this whole thing. The trick to these insane savings wasn't just having an EV. It was a smart, deliberate strategy of using free public charging stations. You know, the kind you might find at a local mall or an office building. Okay, so now we know how they did it. But let's really put that $44 figure into perspective. Just how big of a deal is it, really? I mean, look at this. The difference is it's mind-blowing. On the left, you can barely even see the EV's cost at $44. A hybrid? That would have been almost $600 for the same distance. And a regular old gas car? We're talking over $1,600 in fuel. Wow. All right, let's do the final breakdown. Let's see exactly how we get to that insane 97% saving. So this table here shows the full calculation, including all the assumptions they used for gas prices and fuel efficiency for the other cars. But the bottom line is what matters. Compared to what you'd spend on gas, that tiny $44 charging bill saved this driver over $1,600. You know what? Let's just strip everything else away for a second and look at the two numbers side by side. $44 versus almost $1,700 to go the exact same distance. It's a completely different world. Here's another way to think about it that's just wild. For every single dollar a gas car owner would have spent on this trip, this EV driver spent less than 3 cents. Everything else, just pure savings in their pocket. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that the biggest factor in saving money wasn't just the car itself. It was the strategy. It's all about how you charge it. It's about your habits. So by being smart and using free public chargers, this one person, this one driver, put over $1,600 back into their wallet, and that was in just under 6 months. That's real money. And really, that's what it all comes down to, right? This was just one person's story, with their car and their daily routine. But it really makes you think, doesn't it? If you look at your own driving habits, where you go, where you park, what do you think you could save?